back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with another Rumour Has It video. Yes, the season is barely even cold at its finish, and the transfers are ramping up for Newcastle United, or the transfer rumours, that is. Some strong links to a couple of players, and one in particular that's a resurface of an old link. We have done a video about this lad before, but I think he's a cracking player. So I thought we'd just jump on and have a little bit of an update as the stories are getting hotter and hotter about this lad. And it seems to look like he's going to be the first major signing, if you want to call it, of the summer transfer window. We're going to get stuck right into this in a minute. Just before we do, a little reminder, if you're new to our channel, you haven't seen us before, welcome on board. We're over 650 subscribers. Just click that button, come and join. There's loads of Newcastle United content over the close season, loads of transfers, stats and chats about certain targets that we're potentially going after. And obviously when we sign players, we'll be jumping straight in to look at that as well. So who we're talking about? Well, we're talking about a position that is pretty obvious that we need it filled, and that is no disrespect to the man who we should build a statue of in Blythe, overlooking the sea, maybe the same size as one of them big wind turbines. That is Dan Burn. He's had an amazing season, but he is filling in at left back. He's not a left back by trade. He's done very well, but we do need a proper left back, especially with Champions League football on the horizon. So we have been linked to this player before, and the stories are in the Times that it looks like Newcastle United is going to be his preferred destination for a fee of 30 million, which has raised a few eyebrows. Who am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about this lad right here, and that is Kieran Tierney of Arsenal, former Celtic and Scottish international left back, 26 years old. Or 25 years old. He's probably going to be 26, I think, fairly soon, as all the news stories say. But how has he done this season? He hasn't had a lot of game time, as you can see there. I mean, he has had 36 appearances overall versus Dan Burns' 44, because obviously Dan Burns has been a lot more consistent. But 90 minutes played, you can see there, he's only had 16.3 compared to Dan Burns' 40.3. He has got 1 goal and 2 assists, so he's 1 goal behind the big DB, and he's obviously got 2 more assists than him. In terms of his tackles, he does do more tackles per 90 minutes than the big Burn. Interceptions, he's kind of thereabouts as Kieran Tierney. Blocks, a little bit behind Dan Burn. Clearances, a little bit behind Dan Burn as well in terms of that regard, but potentially he's probably been playing under more pressure, as Arsenal have been probably under less pressure, I would say, than we have in a lot of our games. In terms of clearances and fouls, clearances, he doesn't do as many as Dan Burn. Fouls, he doesn't give away as many, which is key in that position as well when you've got tricky wingers up against you in the Champions League. Recoveries, he's a very good recovery stats there. There's Tierney at 5.22. His pass completion is 77.6. Just slightly behind Dan Burn, funnily enough. But his crosses, this is the key bit. So all of our play goes through Kieran Trippier. And he said Kieran Tierney there. That's going to be confusing. Kieran Trippier, all our play goes through him in terms of the crosses, but Tierney can offer something special as well. He's nearly at 3 crosses per 90 minutes there, as you can see, which is way ahead of Dan Burn, who's barely doing a cross a game really. And in terms of his assists as well, Tierney's on 0.14 in comparison to Dan Burn. But going at the kind of the more detailed stats, and I'm going to go big screen on this bad boy because I haven't got my specs with me, as you can clearly tell. So in terms of Tierney's tackles in the middle of the third of the park, which shows you what an advanced fullback he is. He's in the 80th percentile. His passing, he's in the 72th percentile, but his long passing is in the 90th percentile. So he can win the ball in the middle of the field, maybe hit a through ball to somebody as well, which gives us something a little bit different than what Burns giving us right now. Progressive passing, you can see at 82% there. Passes into the final third at 92%. And his touches in the attacking third, he's way above Dan Burn because he's a lot more of an attacking fullback. We even saw that in the brief cameo they had at St James's Park when he came on in the Arsenal game. He was pushing right up the park. So, he is going to offer us something, I think, a little bit different as well. Obviously, a little bit of red area there in terms of his blocks and his crosses into the area. But I do think that given the game time that he's probably had as well, and maybe it's been when Arsenal have mixed that squad around, he's potentially not had the quality in there that he's maybe would have had if he'd been in I suppose, the starting 11 of an Arsenal with a Gabriel Jesus and people like that playing as well. The big question mark, I think, over Tierney is obviously the price and his injury record. He has had a lot of injuries over the years, but 30 million quid for an experienced left back who has got Champions League experience. My dad's a Celtic fan, as you all know on the channel. I watch a lot of Tierney playing in the Champions League, huge European nights at Parkhead against the likes of Barcelona, against the likes of AC Milan. When he was marking, prime Neymar, Messi, Kaká, at AC Milan. And, the lad did a really good job back then. He's got way more experience about him now, obviously 20, 25, 26 years old. I think 30 million quid is probably the going rate for a player of that quality. And he's Premier League ready. He can walk straight back in, to a Premier League side. He knows exactly what's going to happen in the league. He doesn't need any time to settle, like maybe one of the foreign players would do. So I think this is a fantastic signing for Newcastle United. And according to the Times, it looks like we are his preferred destination. We've got real serious competition, though, from Aston Villa. And Emery's building something quite special there, I think. And I can see Aston Villa being a real strong contender to try and break into that top four next season. And I can understand why they would go for Tierney. I can understand why it would appeal to Tierney as well. But as the story goes, and one of his former teammates, Chris Commons, who played at Celtic with him, does say that he thinks the Newcastle deal appeals more to the player. And that is the report as well in a lot of the media outlets, that although Villa's a really good prospect, and he's obviously, he's probably heard them out and spoke to them as agent, Newcastle is the one that appeals to him the most. And the biggest reason it probably appeals to him the most, not just because, this exciting Newcastle United project to work with Eddie Howe, Champions League football, they're huge draws, but from a personal level from the player as well. He's from Glasgow. He's only 2 or 3 hours up the road, from Newcastle. Chris Commons has said he had suffered from homesickness being down in London a little bit, missing his family. So I think that draw as well for Newcastle United is probably going to be a big thing for Kieran Tierney as well. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below, whether you think Tierney would be a good signing for us or not. I know a lot of people are looking at the free transfers, like Grimaldo, like Guerrero. I think, to be fair to Guerrero, I think from Dortmund, he is looking at either Atletico Madrid or Bayern, I think. So I don't think he'll be on Newcastle's radar. He's 29 as well, so he's maybe just a little bit older than maybe what Eddie Howe wants that position. I know Trips is 31 on the side. He's amazing, but he maybe doesn't want two full backs at the kind of wrong end of the age spectrum. At least with Tierney, you've got probably another 3 or 4 years of him at that top level before you maybe have to look to replace him. So I think Tierney probably is going to be the preferred option on that regard. So that's one probably for the present, and a key position as well that we need to sign. One for the future, and all the links that are going out in the media is apparently that we are just about to wrap up a deal for a winger called Yankuba Minteh, I believe it is. And he plays for the Danish club, bear with my pronunciation here, Mark's better than me, Odense Bowl Club, I think it is. So in his breakthrough season, he's got 5 goals and 7 assists from 17 appearances. So the boy looks very talented. He's Gambian. He's got a contract until 2024, and apparently the story goes is that I think he's got a £4.7 million release clause or something like that. We've been around about 6, but it sounds like it's one for the future. It sounds like one of these Dan Ashworth specials that he's looking to pull into the bag. So I think it could be very similar to the Grand Qual deal in that regard. So we'll keep an eye on that one and see what happens. The player himself is playing it down. He doesn't know anything about it. Apparently being reportedly ready to sign for Newcastle. He's come out and said, "Oh, it's news to me." So he's maybe just playing the game quite well there. But if you look at what we're doing in the summer, I think we're making some moves quickly here. We need established signings. Tierney's a great start. If the stories are to believe, then maybe that can get tied up in the next couple of weeks. You got likes of Minteh, Gabri Vega that we talked about from Celta Vigo, could be one for the now as well. You've also got the young boy from Fenerbahce. Is it Arda who Borussia Dortmund have already come out and said that they're not going to sign him, and he looks a real player as well. So it looks to be that Newcastle United aren't going to rest on their laurels in the summer. They're going to make some serious moves to get players in for the now and for the future as well, and that's brilliant in my opinion. I'm really excited to see the club do that, and I hope we do a business early doors, because I think there's a few people have said Eddie Howe wants the players in early doors because he wants them to be rested, recuperated, come into the pre-season camp as early as possible and get up to speed with the way Eddie Howe wants you to play, the way Eddie Howe trains you with that intensity and everything else. Anthony Gordon came out and said it when he came in from Everton. He was way off the pace. I don't think he even got up there towards the end of the season as well. So we need these players to come in and have as much Eddie Howe training as humanly possible to get ready for that season starting in August, and then they'll be ready to hit the ground running, really. So that is all wrapped up for this update on transfers. There'll be loads more through the summer. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, click that button, subscribe, come and join us, like this video, help get it around YouTube. This is me signing off. I'm sure I'm going to be back very soon with another transfer update, and hopefully it'll be a Kieran Tierney signing video, and we'll watch that space for that happening. Have a good day, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.